Paul is out on PTO this evening, so we're joined by Deputy Chief Sally, and we'll now hear his narrative report for the month of September. Deputy Chief, I yield the floor to you.
Okay, good morning. Good evening. Okay, so we'll start at the top. Update on contractor scams. We don't have anybody identified in the contractor scams. We sent out a tracks bulletin. So the bulletin goes out to different departments to see if they had any similar type of scams going on. We haven't really picked up on anybody else having that kind of same scam to compare notes and do an investigation on. So we do not have anybody identified in those scams, and we haven't had any recently. The next, I'm going to move to robberies. Okay, so robberies, July monthly report. In the month of July, we have one robbery which took place at the Wawa gas station, where the vehicle, the actor's vehicle, was identified. Newark PD had similar incidents with the same type vehicle. Detectives will continue to investigate that incident, working together with Newark Police Department. As of from the first of this year to July, we have had 12 robberies. So from January 1st to July, 12 robberies. Last year, from January to July, we only had 2 robberies. In the month of August, we had additional 4 robberies in August, making a total for this year so far 16 robberies. Robberies were committed with most of them were committed with a handgun. We had one with a knife and a few strong arm robberies. Most robberies occurred in the area of Springfield Avenue, towards the area of Springfield and Chancellor. We had a couple at the Wawa. Morning hours and late night hours. Most of the time, actors were wearing a mask, and vehicles were always involved. On Sunday, this past Sunday, on the 11th, it was not in our town, but it was in Irvington. Irvington PD reports 6 robberies in one day, and that was a vehicle involved. It was a stolen vehicle, and that vehicle is still at large. That vehicle has not been recovered. So that has happened on Sunday, and the robberies were on Chancellor Avenue, but a little further down on Clinton Avenue towards in Irvington. So it's kind of near our border, those robberies, but nothing happened in Maplewood as far as those. So what we have done as a police department for the robberies, we have increased police patrol. We increased our high visibility patrols and have been conducting in the areas of prior incidents and times. So we station these officers in areas where we will. Again, we're talking about the Irvington, Chancellor, Clinton area. So we have extra patrols in the area of Spring and Chancellor on our border, and in locations where we have had these 16 robberies. And these extra patrols have worked the time frames of when these incidents have taken place. Our detectives are also working with Irvington and Newark PDs because some of these robberies are similar to some of the robberies they have had. So it might be the vehicle description is similar, and what they're taking is similar, and how they do it is similar. So our detectives are working with those municipalities. Anybody have any questions on the robberies?
No questions for me. I don't know if the mayor's joined. Oh, he's here. Mayor, any questions? No questions.
No questions. Sorry, I was muted. Apologies for my delay, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to thefts. Okay. So thefts, we have more thefts than anything. July monthly report, we have in the month of July, we have 32 thefts. That's from shoplifting, thefts of packages, overnight rummaging in vehicles. Okay, so the overnight rummaging in vehicles goes back to the unlocked vehicles. So nothing is being damaged to get into the vehicles. It's just they're unlocked, crime of opportunity. And with that, we have had 10 auto thefts in the month of July. And all of them were unsecured vehicles with keys inside or the vehicles running. So all of them were that. It wasn't that none of these vehicles were locked. They all had keys inside. And so that's our 10 auto thefts that we have had. Anybody have questions about the thefts? I mean, it's you know, we have the shoplifting in the Walgreens and the Wawas, the convenience stores, but also we have the rummaging in the unlocked and unsecured unlocked vehicles, and also package thefts. So that's where our thefts are coming from.
So, Chief, this is Mr. McGehee. So it seems like, again, there's an uptick, but it's, you know, you call it crime of opportunity, and it seems to be theoretically clustered. I know we talked about having certain zones, we've had some things spread, but you still feel like it's concentrated in particular areas where people, like for example, with the cars, where people are running in to get a cup of coffee and are still not cognizant to lock their cars or leave them not running when they run in for 3 to 5 minute interval.
Right. So I would say with the robberies and the thefts, if you had to dot where most of them were taking place, is on that Springfield Chancellor corridor right there, in that area. So we, you know, with a 24-hour store, you know, you get it at all kinds of different hours. People running in the place or just keeping the car running. And then with the weather, you know, we get to October and November and it starts getting cold out. You see even more people just running their vehicles, and you know, in a crime of opportunity, take the vehicle, and then we have the auto theft. You know, so.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Mayor, any questions or comments?
Okay, and update on the student safety traffic pattern. You know, officers are reporting that for the first week, we've had more officers out on the road, kind of all hands on deck for school safety, and for, you know, we have a lot more pedestrian people walking to school. Seth Boyden School, we have officers out there. We made the street a one-way. But the problem is on Boyden Avenue, there's still a lot of traffic, a lot of backup. You know, I would think even, you know, last year, you know, we always have traffic there when school's in, spring in Boyden, you know, and part of it is, from my observation, you know, driving through, is that a lot of people park at the Quick Check and then walk their kids in. You know, Quick Check allows them to park there, which is, you know, no problem. It's just that when they're trying to get out or trying to make that left turn into from Boyden Avenue into the Quick Check, it causes a backup. And then with that that light there, you know, you know, I don't know if there's been a survey of that light cycling on Spring and Boyden, but it also backs up. And then when you come down Tuscan to Boyden, that corner is tough. You know, just keeping cars from trying to park on the corners there so you can see when you come out. But with officers are out there, you know, helping with the traffic. We have the sign out there, you know, so I think as the school year goes on, people understand the traffic pattern will get a little better. But right now there's a little congestion in the morning. So that's what I have with the student safety traffic flow.
Thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief. I appreciate that. In any case, when you have, at all the schools, I noticed it at Columbia, where my daughter attends, it's, you know, and I had an opportunity to drop her off a couple of times in the morning. You have a lot of new students, new families going to the school, so they're not used to the, you know, the routines and patterns. And so it's, I see that as well over at CHS, but I know also from the previous 3 years that, you know, as the days of weeks progress, people kind of get into routine, a pattern, drop me off here, pick me up here, leave it as time. People are kind of filling things out. So I get that that's also part of the process. So,
right.
Mayor, any questions for you?
No, I just want to add that we have been out there, as Deputy Chief Sally reported, sort of monitoring the traffic flow and monitoring and adjusting as we need to some of our mitigation efforts, particularly around Seth Boyden, and working with the residents there and begging for their patience until we can sort of like get everybody adjusted to this reality and make things a little bit better. So it's a work in progress.
Okay, and next, traffic enforcement, back to work, back to school. You know, we still do our traffic studies, and also we still do our you know, our traffic details according to what the studies say, and also if we have any type of traffic complaints as far as speeding or from my observation, I mean, I don't know if you guys get any complaints, but the four-way stop signs I think work. You know, I haven't seen any. You know, just me observing and driving around, it seems like everybody stops and then follows the you know, first person that stops goes through, then it goes around. So I haven't really seen too many problems with that.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Any Ms. Barnett or Mr. Dimes, any questions or thoughts that you have on Chief's narrative report?
No, everything sounds good to me. Thank you.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chief, why don't we move on and hear about some of the police metrics from the August UCR.
Okay, so for the month, this goes to the month of July. Again, you know, we're a month behind us as far as the you know, August is not in yet. You know, the biggest thing again is the robberies. You know, we had 2 in 2021 at this time. This year we have 12. Burglaries are up as well. I haven't mentioned burglaries. It was 3 at this time last year. Now we're at the 16. And my thoughts on burglaries is usually, you know, most burglaries are during the day, and a lot more people are going back to work. So again, it's another crime of opportunity, you know, least resistance. So people are looking for people that are not home, even though we have some burglaries where I guess it appeared that the person wasn't home, but a person was able to get in because they can see, they can observe from outside. Let's say, you know, looking out through a window, you can see a pocketbook sitting right there, but you don't see nobody in the house. So they go in and snatch the pocketbook and run out, but somebody was there. So, you know, I don't think they were going in there knowing that somebody was in there, but they just saw that item there and they were able to get it. So the burglaries, you have 3 at this point last year, up to 16. Thefts last year at this point, 93. We're up to 127. And auto thefts, 40. And year to date, 67. Again, there's unsecured, running, and everything else. You know, the major, you know, homicide, 0, and arson, 0. So those are the part 1 crimes. Okay, and that's where we're at. I'll move down to juveniles. We had 1 juvenile arrest. We haven't had a lot of contact with juveniles, so it'll probably pick up during school, and then we can you know, get, if it needs to be, restorative justice. So that's where we're at with that.
2 quick things for me, Deputy Chief. One is going back to UCR report, and we'll do this for the next meeting in October. I'll work with you and Chief. I'd like to pull up the UCR reports, which will be for August for 2020 as well as 2021, even 2019. I'm interested to see the trends because I do think that there's a COVID factor here. I would obviously imagine a significant diff in 20 because that's when we were pretty much in lockdown, from March through through the fall, and then of course we tried to open back up a little bit in 2021 last year, and here we are. So, and then I'd like to see where we were at pre-pandemic. So, what we'll do for next month is that instead of going year to date, month to month, year over year, let's take a look at a 3-year trend and see if there's anything, any data in there. So that'll be good. And then of course with the juvenile situation, as school is back in session, we should watch that and see the uptick, if any, and hopefully not, of course, and go from there from a trend perspective. Yeah. Mayor, any questions? Oh, go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
Nope. Thank you.
Just the one juvenile arrest we had was a major crime, so we were unable to do a restorative justice for it.
Understood. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Okay. All right. Overtime, I can say the numbers look good. I'm trying to put that up at the same time, but if you want to speak to it, Deputy Chief, we can do that.
Yeah, they're pretty good. The one that has increased though is if you look at 911 overtime hours. So that is a combination of our watch commanders and dispatchers. What happened there is we had 3 supervisors that were on leave. So that causes watch commander overtime, and also we had one dispatcher that was out. So that causes and a lot of times we have to fill that position with an officer. So an officer certified dispatcher, if we have no other dispatchers, would have to dispatch, and also our watch commander. So that's where that increase comes in. But we did hire a part-time dispatcher. So right now she's in training and getting up to speed, so that should help us out. And then on the bottom, where it says total salaries, it's an increase, and that's due to percent raises that officers receive from the contract.
Thanks, Deputy Chief. I think that always is that. For that number to be flat, theoretically, it'd be wishful thinking. There's always that salary increase, for our officers. But all in all, I think the strategy of the Power Wednesdays and what we've been doing, and of course we're fully staffed on the officer side, has been very effective, even with some of the people who are currently out. So very good. Mayor, any questions for you?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Deputy Chief, thank you so much. We're going to move on in the agenda. I keep toggling between all these screens to share what's going on, but we are now going to hear from the Community Board on Police, and Io's not here, but I think I saw Kasha. Kasha, are you going to be providing?
Yeah, sorry, and Bailey, if Io hasn't sent you who's coming for the next few months, ask him to do that. Because he's the one who set the schedule, and it is me this month.
Sounds good. I'll reach out to him.
All right. I'm not going to report on what we're working on. I think folks can attend our meetings, and we are going to get all of the minutes up so people can see what's going on. The one thing that I did want to bring up is the juvenile increases that you brought up earlier. I mean, it's a massive increase, and for sure, COVID might be one hypothesis, but I would love to work with Officer Jones to maybe dig a little bit deeper into some of those incidents and see and look at the trends as you said, Frank, just to see if there's anything that we can unlock there in terms of what might be going on. So that's all I was going to mention, because that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out. I agree. We should definitely take a look at that, and then even if we can't get it reported out by next month, at least in 2 months' time, we can take a look at that. I think it's a great call out.
I'm happy to work with Officer Jones on that, kind of dig into that data a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Officer Jones is a very good person.
That's all I have from us. I am going to come back for public comment though, so to take.
All right. Well,
Raise my hand, member of the public.
That's a good segue. So, any Mayor, any comments or questions for Kasha before we move on to public comment? All right. So we'll now move on to agenda item number 4, which is public comment, and I think that's a beautiful segue. So, Kasha, the floor is yours for your 3 minutes.
Thanks. I just wanted to talk about the Seth Boyden traffic stuff, make a couple of suggestions for areas that maybe could warrant a little bit of further investigation on the changes, just in my own personal use of some of the changes. The first is, I know we changed that crosswalk crossing over Boyden in front of Tuscan, which is terrific in terms of helping moving kids that are crossing Springfield from not crossing where all those left turns happen, but crossing on the other side. That way they avoid that left turn and then there's one less street that they have to cross. However, I think there's a little confusion on the officers because they're crossing at both places and they're not always directing families to that new crosswalk, which then makes it so much easier and they don't have to cross as many things. So I think there's some instruction that could be there. So every time I go, I'm like, hey, officer, do you think you could cross us over here? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. But I don't think everyone understands how the full traffic flow was supposed to go. And then the other thing to take a closer look into is that now that you've changed that crosswalk, that one crossing guard who's at Tuscan and Boyden now has to cross both of those streets. And as we talked about before, the traffic is totally crazy at that intersection. And I just see the look of like fear in her eyes as she's trying to figure out like, oh wait, do I cross this family over here or do I go over there? And how do I manage all of these intersections? So I know that, finding enough crossing guards is a challenge, but I would just encourage you to take a look at both of those situations and see, if you think there might be something different that needs to be done there.
Thanks, Kasha. Deputy Chief, can you take that back and then maybe, obviously you'll see Kasha, he's here on a higher cadence than most of us, and maybe just follow up and provide some feedback there, because those are some good points. So
yes, I think
do some observations and see what you think. But.
Yeah, Kasha, is it different officers every day out there?
So I've only walked the kids. I've walked the kids 3 times and it has been a different officer each time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Just make sure everybody's on the same page. All right.
I mean, there are going to be kids who are coming from the middle school who are going to cross that other intersection too. So I think they have to manage both, but they should be directing families to cross on the other side. Anybody who's going to Seth Boyden should cross on that other side, no matter what. It's so much safer and more direct, either no matter which way they go. So in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Kasha. Thanks for raising it. Deputy Chief Sally, can you loop in Engineer Kittner on this, who will then also loop in our traffic consultant, because we might have to further adjust some things there to make sure that people can cross on both sides safely, as Kasha was referencing. It might have a domino effect in some of the other in that area with other things that we're doing. So I just like for them to have another look. Like we said, we're constantly adjusting this based on great feedback like this. So,
and I know my time is up, but I would love at some point some, I know that there are a bunch of changes were made. Nothing was made at that other intersection where at Burnett and Tuscan and Boyden. And I think like maybe there were reasons for that, but I think that was sort of like one of the most concerning places. So just some understanding as to why, like we didn't consider a stop sign there, or we didn't consider making Tuscan one way, why we didn't, why there weren't calming things happening over there. We don't have to do that now, but I think that the community would appreciate that.
Yeah, we should, and that's something we could kick over to engineering public, and I don't attend that meeting anymore because Mr. Kittner would be he does all this traffic studies and really leads that. So I think that's something, Mayor, we should kick over. I know you're on that committee and get that information so we can provide it, at the public safety meeting next month, which will be in the evening as engineering public work is in the morning. So Kasha, thank you much for your comments. Appreciate that. We have one more hand up, and it's Mr. Lasky. So we'll yield the floor for 3 minutes to Mr. Lasky. Mr. Lasky, are you there? I have so many screens in front of me, I can't see.
She's here.
Miss Barnett. Okay.
Yes, she's just muted right now.
Sorry,
Okay.
I've done this on my phone before. I have no idea if you can see me. Here's someone. So I really just would like to know how we as a community get resources if we want to prevent additional police activity. There's been an awful lot of it on my block, as some of you are aware. And as a community, we've been talking about how we would really like to reduce that. We would like to be able to offer resources to those in crisis. We've had some difficulty getting response that we thought we would get to prevent it. So we'd like to do it ourselves. How do we get those resources? Is there a county website? Is there something on the Maplewood website? How do we get that so that we can, as a community, come together and assist our neighbors?
What resources are we talking about? I'm sorry, I missed that.
So, I mean, I think we would like to know if they're available, if there could be some centralized location for many different things, whether it be mental health, housing, particularly for young people, domestic violence, anything we could do to minimize the need to utilize the police, or hopefully to minimize our particular neighborhoods seemingly persistent issues with police being here for numerous different calls, where we are aware of the crisis and we would like to help prevent it.
Sure, I understand that better. Thank you. Yeah, I will work with our health department to make those resources available on our website and to include that as part of a message in our next weekly blast, township-wide. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. We should do that. In fact, I think that there are different links to different things, but they're not all together in one place in a comprehensive manner. So we can work on that, no problem.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. And thank you, Ms. Sosky, for your comments. All right, anyone else from the public would like to speak? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I'll second it. Thank you, everyone, for this evening, and have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.